Hi chess friends, this is KingsExecutor, and I've been quite busy last days, so you kinda have to wait for the last videos of the Tata Steel tournament, and for now I'm going to show you a game which I played last weekend, at a regional tournament I participated in. I had the white pieces, and of course I opened with f4, trying to employ the bird's opening. My opponent played quite a reasonable opening here with the solid d5, knight f3. I'm not afraid of bishop g4 at all. Let's look at it. If bishop g4 now, e3, and next move I'm going to play h3, and the bishop cannot retreat this way here because it would be trapped afterwards with g4 and f5. So the bishop rather has to go back afterwards, or take this bishop, developing my queen. Let's just look at some lines. Here, maybe e5, and then I would play g4 probably, and afterwards maybe bishop g2, d3, knight c3, and I would probably castle short, and if knight f6 at some moment, of course g5. So this is only to show you that bishop g4 is something I like to see. c5 by my opponent, g3, employing the Leningrad variation, knight c6. Well, black can really fool around with the move order. It's not really changing very much. Knight f6, knight c6, g6, e6. This is all possible. Knight c6, bishop g2, knight f6, castles. Yes, castles, even though h5 is possible. Well, such moves don't necessarily mean anything at all. And bishop g4 in this position. Well, actually you don't wanna have this knight exchanged, even though you get the bishop pair then, because you want to pressure your opponent in the middle game. You want to pressurize your opponent in the middle game, and the knight on f3 is really needed after d3 and e4 to have control of this square, or to go h5, and with these pawns here to watch over f5 and pushing the pawn afterwards here. So this knight is really important. But again, even if it would be taken, you have the bishop pair, and long term you might get an advantage, but in the early middle game the knights in the center kinda equalize with the bishop pair. The bishop pair in this opening rather works in the late middle game or end game. d3 here. Well, the bishop could be taken, the bishop could take the knight, e5 could be played, and if I take here, I have to lose a tempo here, but it's fine. it's alright. I can develop my bishop here. Maybe even here. Maybe sorry. Maybe I wait with the bishop and firstly play knight d2 to f3. Okay. Back to this position. I played d3 and my opponent played e6. Well, I'm not so sure about touching the e-pawn for black. The approved position for black is the fianchettoed variation here, castling short, and later think about the e-pawn, because after e6 black is planning to develop the bishop on these squares, rather e7 probably, because of the e5 push harassing the bishop on d6. So, but then this bishop would be blocked in by this central pawn here. I'm not so sure about this approach for black. I doubt that it's working. And now I'm kinda experimenting with this idea of connecting the knights, so I can play h3, gain the bishop here maybe, and replace the knight here. In this position, well, I have shown you other games in this kind of positions, playing here and connecting the knights. And then I played c4 when black castled long. In this position, black played queen b6, clearly indirectly looking at my king. This is not threatening anything at the moment, but I want to frustrate black. You see, these pieces, they rely on the dark squares, playing on the dark squares. And I want to frustrate this activity. So I played c4, and this is already the moment where I have no clear cut way to play against black. I thought as well that c3, covering these dark squares, allowing maybe this check, playing then d4, of course is playable as well, but I'm experimenting now with c4. This has pluses and minuses. These dark squares could be weak, but on the other hand, you are controlling the light squares here. So, or you're pressurizing them. Let's put it that way. My opponent, after c4, played rook to d8. This is not a bad move. I played queen a4 here. So this knight is pinned for the moment. At some point, I want to try to push e4 maybe, and I don't want to do it in this position because then there would be a pin. So I want to activate my queen and make this pawn flexible. After queen a4, pinning the knight, queen b4 was played, and I don't want to take this queen. And this is already the drawback of c4. If I would have played c3, such a move wouldn't be possible here. The move c3 covers these light squares these dark squares, and the knight would be blocked in and hemmed in by c3. But I would prefer playing c3 when the bishop would be blocked in as well with c3. So in this position I try to frustrate this bishop and this queen location by playing c4, blocking the pawn here. And after queen b4, again I don't want to take this queen because the knight would recapture, and after that threaten knight c2, gaining a tempo, and afterwards knight e3, forking rook and bishop, and after the rook moves my Leningrad bishop is gone. So taking this queen is not a very good idea. So I played back queen to c2, and this is not a tempo losing move because I can regain my tempo with a3 and maybe playing even b4 at the right moment. Bishop d6 was played, and bishop d6 is maybe not the best location for the bishop here. A move like e4 threatens this fork and forces black to undertake something. So black is taking flexibility out of his position. a3 kicking the queen back, and e4 in this position. Well, having the pawn on c3 could be preferable, maybe, because after the exchanges, again, the knight would be blocked in by the pawn on c3. He wouldn't have these squares. So I would stop black from fooling around in the center. But, as I said, I'm experimenting. e4, the pawn was taken. And now, the best move could be e5. This is not what my opponent played here. My opponent played knight d4. But let's look at e5. The Indians prefer that move. h3 is the key move here now, after having these knights connected and the queen out of any pins. Now you can put the question to the bishop, and bishop c8 is probably best. What then? You have pressure in the center, and okay, the king is only one move away from castling, so opening up the game might not be the best approach here. g4 is a good move. Well, if black would have to play preparation moves to castle, then you should open the game. But here g4 looks good, maybe threatening. f5, so e takes f might be forced, but then e5. Due to black's king position, if knight takes, bishop takes rook e1, and knight d7, knight f3, f6, bishop takes the pawn. Now we gain the pawn, and after castles, takes, and now we're even in terms of pawns, and we have a active position, and the rook is coming into the game. This looks nice. This position is equal, but white seems to be a little bit faster with pressurizing the opponent. Again, in this position, after g4 by white. If e takes f doesn't work for black, what about knight d7? f5 then. Knight d4 maybe, that can be taken, and knight f3, and after castles, surprisingly white has the move f6, and the knight cannot take this pawn because of e5, forking the light pieces, so you're kind of weakening this pawn. g6 doesn't look very nice. The engines even suggest a move like takes on f6. So it's not so easy in this position to see a clear cut way for black after e5, which the engines like. My opponent played knight d4. So I just wanted to talk about this position to show you the richness this opening has, and the complexity. Knight d4 was the game continuation, and now check. The knight interferes because, of course, e5 is threatening. Knight d7. I took the knight. Of course, I always have to look out for discovered checks. b4, threatening c5. Castles was played by my opponent. Well, he probably should retreat this bishop on e7 or b8, but he kinda didn't like this cramped position. Totally understandable, but this is the only approach, in my opinion, a practical approach to go on as black. But he castled in the total awareness that he has to sacrifice a piece for 2 pawns. I played c5, the knight took the pawn and I recaptured. Bishop c5. And black's point is that d3 check is threatening. After that, these bishops can get strong, getting here, attacking this knight, this rook, sorry, and if I have to retreat onto a dark square, then this bishop can regain equality, and then black would be almost even in material, having this passed pawn pressurizing my position and making me kind of move bound. So I have to play precisely here, but well, if the 2 bishops together threaten my rook, I simply play bishop f3. My opponent played bishop h3, and after rook d1 and d3 check, king h1, there's nothing for black. There's nothing for black, and white just can improve his position move by move. Queen c7 was black's move, and now you have different choices. I thought I want to leave my knight on d2 to blockade this pawn, and I played bishop b2 here, looking at this long diagonal, preparing rook c1 and maybe even queen b3 and this battery against the king. And having the queen here, of course, I pressurize this pawn, and yeah, white looks fine. Queen e7. Well, in this position b5 could have been played by black, and I could not take this pawn because of this skewer. I could take this pawn then, and this still would be okay, but I wouldn't want to give black this activity. I really like not to only play objectively good, but I want to play good psychologically as well. I want to frustrate my opponent in his less active play I allow. Queen e7. Well, again, after b5, I simply would play queen b3, threatening queen c6. Queen e7 was the game continuation. Well, what to play now? I thought e5 looks nice, but it would block in my bishop here. So why did I put it there in the first place? On the other hand, I vacate this square for my knight, which would be centralized. I would then open fire against the passed pawn. I could round it up soon. I attack this bishop, and well, this looks just very nice. On the other hand, playing e5 not only blocks in this bishop, it gives this bishop the possibility to come to f5. But well, the more pieces I exchange, the easier it is to round up this pawn. And then I should have a winning position, being a piece up for 2 pawns. I played e5 and g5 by my opponent. Now he gets desperate. He thinks he has his passed pawn and he has his bishops, looking at my king side, and now he wants to crack open the game and somehow win with pressure rather than material. But this is only a weakening move. I played knight e4, threatening knight f6. This looks very, very strong. f4 was taken and I played check. And after king h8, I want you to please stop the video and think about White's next move, White's continuation. Okay, I hope you had a thought. Well, my thought was, I wanna go queen e4, mating black. But if I play queen e4 now, bishop f5 stops this idea. Well, afterwards I can take this pawn, but well, then I can take it immediately to not give a tempo to black. But I wanna attack this h7 pawn and I wanna still threaten mate, and the way to do it is playing g4. And now queen e4 is possible and the bishop is blocked and is not able to come to f5. So g4 is really the strongest move in this position. My opponent kinda overlooked this idea and he played bishop e3 covering the pawn so I cannot take it, but this pawn is really my least target, or the lesser target here. Queen e4 was played, and now you see the threat is simply to mate, and you cannot prevent it. Another move could have been rook g8, threatening to cover h7, but then I simply take this, and now I'm not only up a piece for 2 pawns, but also the exchange. But again, my opponent overlooked this and he played bishop e3. I played queen e4. And now he was simply obliged to sacrifice the queen. And he still kept on playing. Now you see white has a clearly won position. d2 was played by black. And I played queen e5 again, the strongest move, threatening to go queen h5, nabbing the bishop. The bishop has no retreat squares. Rook g8 was played. Well, that doesn't help. He took the pawn, at least, and played rook d5, attacking the queen. Well, you could retreat here and still win, but I wanted to finish this game being way ahead in material and having a positional winning or positional advantage. I took this pawn. I took it not for the sake of the material, but rather to unleash my bishop here. Rook dg5, threatening just to take the bishop. Of course, taking this way makes no sense. Then I would play my idea immediately, so doubling rooks here. And now I took the e6 pawn. And in this position my opponent resigned. Well, if black takes, then f7 check. And if rook here, then this is mate. Having 2 queens, isn't that nice? And if rook here, then queens here on f8, and this is check, and the rook is pinned. Okay, so in this position, after taking this pawn, black resigned. I hope you liked this game, and I hope I've shown you that the bird's opening is a rich opening. It is not an opening that the engines like very much, but that might be the case because of the lack of book preparation which was fed to the engines. And going back to this position here, white to move here. I played e5 and the engines don't like this move, because after takes the engine would like to play e5, but I've shown you that after h3 white is fine with g4, and no matter what black plays, the best moves are takes or knight d7, and in both cases you saw that white is at least equal or better, and black just has to find these best moves against white to equalize. And it's not so easy to play these moves as black. Black hasn't castled. He has pressure in the center, and white is threatening to gain the bishop pair. The queen is offside. The bishop in this position is threatened here. So it's not at all easy to play against the bird opening as black. And even the engines don't find clear-cut way to win against it. So it is a sound opening, it is a rich opening, it is an aggressive opening which is very flexible. You can play on the queen and on the king side and in the center. It's very interesting in terms of positioning your pawns very precisely and backing them up with your pieces, trying to attack your opponent. And even such an aggressive approach like knight d4 is easily repelled. I hope you enjoyed the game. Please subscribe, comment, like the video if you did, and I will cover the Tata Steel rounds which are remaining to be covered soon, and I hope to see you soon again, and I wish you a good week.